Well, hello, cousins and family. I am coming to you from down here. It's a beautiful day out, and I wanted to make a quick video, under 10 minutes, of my own tribute to my brother Philip. And I wanted to share some experiences that, if you will indulge me, I would appreciate it for the next 10 minutes. That the purpose of this video would be to illustrate Philip's open and giving nature, and to kind of share some other aspects of Philip's personality and life as I knew it. And so here we go. And thank you. So Philip had very much, as you know, was a very sensitive man, and he felt things very deeply. During his early years, I remember traveling back and forth, just talking to my brother Paul about this yesterday. We hated those trips, but we went back and forth to the Austin School. Paul, myself, mother and father, and a couple bags of laundry and food and snacks for Philip. So we did that. It seemed like every week. It was a horrible drive. But we did it, and I remember also going to his graduation at the Austin School, and it was a beautiful celebration, because in Brattleboro, Vermont, there's all kinds of hills and mountains, and it was just a beautiful day. And they played the song, "Do You Remember," from last September. And I remember Philip getting his diploma and being so proud. He had a really good friend, Ned, who was a very close friend of Philip, probably the closest friend he ever had. And Ned was married, and I used to see him, was amazed when it first happened, but he used to sign with Ned, sign language, ASL. And I didn't know what he was doing. I mean, he was moving his hands. I had no idea what that was. I was so young. But come to find out, he was indeed able to, and did quite often, sign in American Sign Language. And it was really a sight to behold. And I'll tell you, when we went, we used to go bowling a lot in Malden at those lanes that you guys probably remember and know of. And so we'd go there, and he would always pay for it, for the shoes. I think it was like a dime. And he was always so happy that we would go bowling with him. He was not a bad bowler, actually. It was candlepins. Then moving ahead a little bit, getting to the giving and open nature. During my time in high school with Philip, he was very much, Paul will remember this, he had a reddish Plymouth Duster that was a real relic. And he used to take me back and forth to band and orchestra practice every Wednesday and Thursday night, which seemed for years. But he did it gladly, didn't mind. I didn't mind him taking me. I had no feelings of any which way about having other friends in the car with him. So that wasn't a problem. But he always gave that to me. Didn't matter what he was watching on television, or how many cigars he needed to smoke, and cigarettes and all that crap. He would always take me. And then going ahead a little bit, it's so funny to be thinking about this stuff. Philip actually bought me my first car. It was a Volkswagen Beetle. And I laugh because it was a very cheap, rusted out, and the battery in the back seat fell through the hole in the back seat. And I used to park it at Sullivan Square when I was working at the European on Hanover Street. And I would meet Tony Accardi on the Orange Line, and we would, I believe it was the Orange Line, we'd ride together. He was on his way to Lockober, and I was on my way to the European in 1980. Moving ahead a little bit, so he bought that car, and going ahead, he always loved to play softball and bowl. And when he was at UMass, working at UMass, he was always bowling, and he was on the softball team, and he played. He wasn't a water boy, he was a player. And he would always go on these Boston Harbor boat trips. And so he was really well liked from the people that he worked with. I think you heard the other day that he was very much respected. I really believe he was respected. And probably the only reason he left was because his job was becoming more technologically advanced and therefore more difficult for Philip. And he had 35 years or 36 years of service, so he retired. My dogs, as you all know, Emmy was a little black beast, and when she died of cancer, Philip gave me $200 towards buying another dog, and he didn't do that without tears in his eyes. And I thank you, Philip, for that. He gave me that money, and I bought a golden retriever named Cassie, and I had Cassie for 13 years. And when she died, Philip gave me $200 again with tears in his eyes, and he said, buy another dog. And so I now have Ruby, as you have seen. She's the supermodel of the dogs in the neighborhood. So Philip was very giving that way. He didn't have much, but he gave me $200 each time a dog died. Not asked for, nothing. I didn't ask him for a car. He was just very giving that way. Dad at home took a lot of time out for Philip. Philip was a seller at the Revere flea markets, and Joanne and Nikki, you'll remember, I used to sell t-shirts at that flea market that were kind of leftovers or whatever it was. And Phil was always at the flea market selling. He had a storage space, and he sold every Sunday. Every Sunday he was at the flea market in season. And I don't know what he bought and sold, but he knew a lot of people, and he couldn't walk around the Revere flea market without people saying, hey, Phil, what's up, Phil? How you doing? And he was very well known, and from what I could tell, not taken advantage of. So it was really nice to see. I took him shopping every week for at least 20 years, like 1996 to 2022 is what I come figuring, every weekend. And I will include some pictures that are not exactly in his best health, but some that are showing him smiling regardless. And one of them is in a handicapped cart at Market Basket when he couldn't walk anymore. So you've probably already seen that photo that I sent out to you. His health at the end, the first time he went for a checkup really ever in his life. I mean, aside from when he was little, I remember those clips, it looked like eyelash formers that were for his fingers to try to straighten them out, and he never got very far with that, obviously. But so he went to the doctor because he had pneumonia. And during that time, it was discovered he had prostate cancer, skin cancer, and his blood pressure was 200 over something really, really low that was very indicative of heart disease. So he was at the beginning of all of that. It had to be 50 to 75 trips that I took him back and forth to Mass General, to Mount Auburn and Melrose Wakefield Hospital. He had robotic prostatectomy done, and then he had a lot of procedures for his blood pressure and for the skin cancer. Coming ahead, he had the declining kidney numbers, and I remember him going from fairly moderate kidney numbers down to like hardly anything, and then he had to start dialysis. So he had at least 50, 75 appointments that were taken to, and he never seemed to want to pay co-payments for those. He said, send me a bill or I would pay them. So that was kind of a negative. He still called me daily towards the end of his life, and it was really towards the end, even all the way through Mass General. And I have to mention that Joanne went and bought clothes for Philip and brought him food in Mass General. She also wrongly brought him chocolate cake when he was in the rehab in the nursing home, because he couldn't have chocolate being on dialysis. But he called me daily, and he still wanted to go home to the very end. Cousin Phil visited him, and I shared that the other day of how emotional Phil was, and my brother Philip was the same way. It really moved him. Uncle Vito was his godfather. I don't know if we've missed that or not, but Uncle Vito left Philip $8,000 to help pay his bills and to make sure he had a roof over his head. So his godfather was very caring for him. And thank you, Uncle Vito, for being that kind of person. And every holiday, it seemed, he would give Philip coins. Philip was a coin collector, and he had a box full of silver coins and all kinds of coins, and his apartment got broken into and he was robbed. So all those coins went, and he felt he could never tell Uncle Vito that that happened. He just never could say anything about that. So that's like kind of what I wanted to share with you. I made this video not in response to any else's words or actions. I wanted to make my own video because I was so close to Philip, and I wanted to share with you some of these things that you may not have known. We don't know really if he had been taking, if Mother took thalidomide, because we know that thalidomide was developed in the mid-1950s, like 1956, and it was first developed in Germany, and then used in the United States in 1957-58 until 62, the year I was born, and that was problematic at that point. But Philip was born he was conceived in 1949 and born in 1950. So we have no scientific proof that he either did or did not become a victim of thalidomide. However, we know he had the handicaps. And when he was 9 months old, he contracted the mumps and became deaf. And you all know that story as well. So, Philip, wherever you are, you were a good brother. I hope I was a good brother to you. I know that we had our difficulties, you had your limitations, and you did the best you could. And I'll say again to you, Philip, what you said to me the day before you died. I love you, Phil. Thank you for watching.